Hi guys. Today I bring you the Orient set. You left a subscription to start the video. Episode 1, Second Year Iroku Japan. The world used to be human. It was terminated by an unknown creature named the Devil God. The generals died one by one, but there were still those who stood up to fight. They bear the names of the boxers. People everywhere now worship the devil. There's a mine site in town. Musa is their pride. You know it's not good for the devil, but you still have a smiley lips. At school, teachers give untruthful knowledge to flatter evil gods and make the fighters the evil side. The only fight against evil is only the fighter. As a child, Musa was trained to search with Koji and know the truth. You have a desire to be a fighter. You both have the same desire to create the strongest boxers. At the end of the lesson, everyone spoke out their dreams. Musa also tried to tell the dream of a fighter, but his mouth had to say minors. Musa returned home. Inside is Koji. He will talk seriously this time. The hoe that dug Musa's beak was actually the sword that destroyed the devil. Now it's time for them to get out of town. Both of them are going to be fighters. Musa had also secretly trained swordsmanship during rock digging. Koji suddenly said he didn't want to and thought his story was just for comfort. Your ancestors and your father were fighters. So when he died, your father let go of that lie. In the law, the fighter must carry a sword for identification. They are considered to be the nation's great sinners. Koji has been shining since he went to school because he was carrying a sword with a weight. On the day of the miners' parade, Musa was not happy. The team went to the demon to meet the demon. Musa came here to defeat him. Everyone must leave their luggage and equipment outside. The cannibal devils and stones appeared. Every miner around worked hard. Now the children are afraid to blush when they know the truth. Musa called himself a swordsman, but now he forgets that he didn't bring his sword. The demon started bouncing and Musa quickly took a conventional ice pick. Koji now recalled the sword match against Musa. He just didn't want Musa to get caught up in his fighter's blood. Koji saw Musa's training book and was very surprised. Musa, because he didn't have a sword, was beaten to death. But he still refused to give up. Because exterminating demons is the responsibility of the fighter, his friends advised him to stop and still thought they were just minors. Musa and Koji still don't understand why I have to hide my dream. With the little hoe, Musa can't do anything about the demon. You keep getting punched in the mouth by him. At the time when Musa told the real dream and was about to be eaten, Koji appeared with his supercar ball. You threw out a weapon for the Musa and now you believe the Musa first said it was true. The story of becoming a fighter with secret sword practice. Koji also believed that your father said everything was true. You guys are really serious about this right now. Musa was in the same position as your training book. You took out a demon with just one blow. The other demons began to be wary. Koji was also with Musa. The two of them began to fulfill their dreams of exterminating demons. A light bar began to shine down. Seeing the others said it was a demon god, the last of the demons. Koji and Musa are ready to face it. Episode 2. The two of them started riding the supercar and sweeping. Koji said he had lost the feeling he wanted to destroy the devil. In general, you're not interested in anything anymore. The two of them went to a place called the devil god appeared. Masu went over and cut two of them in half. But the people put it together the same way. A bunch of people brought the tribute. The demon finished eating and began to transform. It's really big after eating the food. 5 years ago, he reappeared in full form. Koji said Musa withdrew but he had been knocked down ever since. Koji was lifted. People advise you to throw away your sword. But then he still refused to let go. Because he followed the sword, he was thrown away to work cheaply to wipe the soil. Koji used to hate his identity as a fighter. Your father felt that way, so he told you a secret. You said the devil was a monster and not a god or a good man. The only one who fought them was the fighter. I'm sorry you got stigmatized. But he wanted you to know that adults in this country threw away their pride. While those men gave up the struggle against the devil, there were only fighters. They don't fight to win the world back for mankind. Koji is the offspring of a brave and proud family. You always thought you'd throw away the sword, but it's your pride. Koji let go but he still held it back. The demon took the sword and swallowed it. But next to him there was also his Musa friend from a young age. Musa rushed up and climbed on the demon. To his stomach, he used his sword to dig. Because of training the ability to dig, he digs very quickly. His belly began to burst and Musa fell. Musa rose with the sword in her hand. He walked out in a very cool way and gave it to Koji. Musa knew it was important for Koji to risk it. When you were a kid, you overheard your father's conversation with you. Now Koji has more motivation. At the same time, they heard that there was a band of boxers. The stronghold was breached and countless Koji drivers flew out. They breached the shield and stormed in and started flying with their swords. One of them told the boys to back off. The demon immediately left her skin on her stomach. It started spitting fire, but the Musa wouldn't let them cut their hands. Musa began to gain attention for the boxers. Their leader started preparing for something and it sounded serious. Episode 3. Musa wanted to defeat the devil himself to get the first victory. But each time he replenished, the demon recovered. He was pulled up to their barracks by the fighters. Musa said it was a dream to take down the demon. But the boxers couldn't let a boy storm the battlefield. In fact, there must be a lot of people tying the demon's hand to keep it. If Musa stormed alone, it would be impossible to defeat the devil. Musa, looking back at the truth, it's true you can't take it out alone, but you must. He broke the coil and rushed again. Head of delegation, this time on the Musa shelf. I believe Musa's determination is real. I also recognize this boy as a fighter. The legs are now targeted. Koji didn't understand what it was that Musa was still risking his life in there. He allocated exactly one addition as a pouring area. Those who hold the devil's feet are also so unable to hold it, it shakes it. That's why their attack was so deficient. Musa wanted to be the one who hit the end. You just have to work hard at this slash. Koji shouted to tell him to aim at the convex belly button of the demonic god because the sense of truth is its weakness. Musa understood the intention to rush up and slash the horn. But what flew out was your blade. The other horn is too hard for your sword to break in half. The devil attacked the Musa, but a man came to save your life. The team leader took the blow and the Musa was still stolen for the first time. The body of the demonic god was destroyed, and those in the boxers absorbed the power of evil gods. The take judgment continues to be established successfully. This scene of celebration is like the one in the boxer's drawing book. Now the people here know who the hero is. What Papa Koji told me was true. Musa was still warm because she had her hands cut off. Take came towards you and Koji apologized for robbing them. Musa turned around and went away and called him back. Take praised you quite for the prospect, but you were still angry. Since suppression was not allowed, Musa began to deploy silk. Take for Musa one thing and tell him it's an incentive prize and it's accompanied by Musa sarcasm. You're bitter, but you can't do anything. Only in the evening did you notice that there was Aki's badge on the other one. He tried to throw it away but suddenly realized it was a kaleidoscope. Koji realized where I'd seen them before. Open up the picture and it matches the picture of the boxers. Musa guessed this must be the devil's visible device. This is also an opportunity for the two brothers to meet again. Musa began to read the letters on the painting, and it's about the history that evil gods appear as well as fighters. It also includes the name of the demon god. There's a guy they took out today. Now the boys know there are a lot of other monsters to kill. The weapon will go to the strongest fighter to defeat the strongest demon. Whoever can unify the world will be the king of this country. That person is also known as the man of the world. Musa and Koji are pretty good after listening even though this wasn't taught at school. They're sure the take fighters must have known about this. They used to say there was something they couldn't give in to. Adults in this country have thrown away their pride. They also gave up fighting demons. Only the fighter is constantly fighting to win the world for mankind. Musa went to Take's company and said something that Take didn't want to give up. You claim a dream that no one has done in 150 years, you will. You're gonna take out all the demons, whatever the hell it is. Take also challenged Musa to see if he could do it. The next day Musa and Koji went out into the world. They first saw the world this wide. Their town is just a little place compared to this world. If Musa was not taught swordsmanship by Father Koji, Musa would still dig stones there by now. Episode 4. It was the first day of demon extermination that Koji Musa was quite excited. On the second day, when you ran out of food, you still got along but you didn't have the spirit. On the third day, both of them were very stubborn but still had to remain calm. The next day the car ran out of fuel. The two of them started pushing and arguing. Koji remained calm. Because he was self-sufficient, he knew how to get food. You fished a bunch of fish. Musa was sarcastic because she had never caught a fish. Musa was angry, so she took the fishing rod to prove she could also fish. On second thought, the two of them didn't understand why they were fighting over food. Musa came back. I don't know why he saw Koji down. Some girl rushed out and took down the Musa and asked for money. Musa was pretty strong, so he lifted her up. She used all her skills but still couldn't do anything Musa. Most of the way he launched a man-made artifact, but Koji was also beheaded for him. Musa was a little bit caught in the trap. You're still awake. You said the beauty trick didn't work on you. She had to start fighting seriously and take out her weapon. But when she was going to fight, she realized she was overstretched. Because he was afraid to scold, he left. Musa borrowed Koji's car, but she stole your car. You two have to chase to get it back. They headed for the Kosa fighters. She ran to the master and seemed very close to him. The master gave her the next task to destroy demons. And they also have a goal of unifying the world. Outside, Musa and Koji were chased with grilled fish on their hands. They went in and met her earlier. She quickly invited them to follow her. Musa was quite surprised. Inside this fort there was a whole town. It's not a fortress, it's a stronghold. Demonic resurrection appears. The boxers need to travel places to destroy demons. These people also follow and they just keep living like that. She's kind of friendly with the kids in here. She sat and told her real family not to be here. Her sister, Sugu, was sacrificed at one time. So is your family. It's just you now. Musa says that's the same as him. After saying the question sentence, he ran to the children to play with. The master of the company began to step out. He is quite friendly and welcome to Musa. Koji, Hideo, about yourself. He had also looked through their demon equipment. I guess in order to possess a demon like them, you must have defeated a lot of demons. Hideo because they know they are quite strong, so invite them to fight with the Kosa crew. There is a powerful wild demon living here. Fighting together will be light, and the demon will keep sharing. Musa asked what the devil was. But because they didn't know, he wouldn't use them anymore. Hideo for Sugu tie them up, he thinks you're hiding the device somewhere. And then they were locked up. Sugu is trying to bring strong fighters to Hideo for him to take advantage of. The video also began to scold her and unfold her true identity. He ordered general encouragement. If this order is issued, the elderly and children in the city will have to fight the devil to death. Sugu began to tremble at this alpha. But she still warmly bit her teeth and listened. Sugu came to ask about Musa and Koji about the devil, but they really don't know. Actually, it's shrapnel coming out of the devil's body. The devil has a power and the boxers will use it to fight, so it's very important. I know Tsugu suppresses something, so Musa told her to say it all. She also said she did not want people in the city to die. She protested the general motivation. But it was only in her mind that she could not yet say it. Sugu started running away, leaving big questions for the other two. Episode 5. Koji and Musa have escaped the dungeon with Koji's fishing ability. They find their iron horses. They found it, but their swords and luggage were confiscated. I thought it was bright, but something was going on. If the Sugu is running, meet the employer. He said there were signs of enemy attacks and that he needed to send a signal to the general staff. Now she said she was opposed to the general mobilization. Hidu cannot use force, but he uses tears. He was going to throw you down and threaten you with a soft arm. She decided she was going to break away from her employer and save everyone in the city. At that moment, the code of Koji rushed in. When she saw that she was a little self-sufficient because she had no employer, they encouraged her to leave him. I'll tell them where to put the sword. Instead, they'll have to do you a favor. When she went out, she was scared to see a herd of devils. She wanted to help people escape, so she gathered them together. Hideo gave the people the responsibility to stop the demons. Suddenly there was a smoke spread, and Sugu is the one who does it. She found it stupid to issue a general mobilization order. It is the fighter who should protect the people. She wanted everyone to run to safety and wait for the demons to pass. Then ask for aid from Toku. She is attracting the attention of the employer as long as she can. If you do, you can escape. But the master of Hideo realized Sugu never said anything like this. Musa and Koji used the smoke to bring down the whole guard. People still don't run away. They are under pressure from their employers and they are imprisoned. Sugu shouted and said he would beat him to shake people's hearts. There's a bunch of other soldiers trying to take the people, but Musa and Koji will stop them. Sugu started fighting with Hideo. Because you use the techniques of Hideo to teach, he knows very well. She was beaten to a bruise by the old man, but she still stood up to fight. You tied him up and exhumed a death sentence. People were in the spirit and started running, but the demons were approaching. They ran out of the city and there was only Sugu with Hideo left in the city. She thought she wouldn't be able to run now. But her dream was still to become a good fighter like her sister. Suddenly a hand came out to save that dream. Musa and Koji came back to save her with her car. They think you're cool and not a regular guy. Episode 6. The city hall was destroyed without leaving a trace. This is better than letting a lord mislead. The people here want Musa and Koji to get Sugu out of the city. Sugu still won't leave. They don't want to fire her, they want her to get rid of the video. He's desperate to be betrayed by the people. If he sees you next time, he'll keep following you. Sugu still thinks he is alright and will no longer listen to his boss. You're still here, you'll continue to be followed, but you can't forget the memories of being here. But in the end, she decided to leave because she wanted to be good for everyone here. You've always decided everything before. She was not sure she would not listen to him anymore. If you become a puppet, no one will protect the villagers. You're still relying on protection, let alone protection. The next day all three of them started to leave the city. The children followed waving Sugu. Their snot and tears were dwarfed because they had left the city. As comforted, she also waved back to them. When you can be independent, you'll definitely come back with everyone. So the crew of Koji and Musa has a new member. The three of them would make the strongest team. Musa looked at the kaleidoscope and saw that there was a demon sound in front of them. They will go ahead and destroy the demons. But I don't know how I got into Musa. You really want to kick her out. Seeing you move, she thought she knew what she meant, but she got it wrong. Besides, Koji is also quite misunderstood. But the real taste of Sugu is the older women. Koji kept making more and more misunderstandings. He hasn't had any contact with women since he's a fighter. You think Musa is a minor. One of the most famous people in the village from a young age, and he doesn't lack a daughter. In general, these two young people are having problems that are most difficult to solve. Sugu was just trying to make friends with the two of them and she didn't know how to do it. She avoided Hoji because last time she said he was just a driver, so she was afraid he was mad at me. And the thing about taking off your shirt is that your sister used to say when you had a problem, take it all off. The next day, while reading a book, some monster came up from the ground and ate Koji's sword. Musa felt that way, so he went after it. He used his hoe to hoe it straight into his horn, but his hoe broke. Although it's made from iron. He continued to jump on it and kept beating, but nothing. It takes you to a place where it's all sword. And there was a man there. The two eyes caught each other. He asked if Musa needed to borrow a sword and if the sword next to you could defeat the devil. If you do nothing, your sword will be eaten. Musa quickly pulled up the other sword, but he also began to transform. His hands started to heat up and then Musa quickly rushed up to the demon and slashed it. The other said it was the devil's sword. I'm focusing on the sword, and this is what the take boxers used. But I don't know why the sword suddenly broke. The other man didn't see why Musa emitted a powerful weapon. And the fact that Musa found herself, someone called him the owner and invited him back for dinner. He loved the devil more than 3 meals a day. They left their identities as dogs. At the same time Musa's friend ran to, he was going to tell me, but the swords around here were gone. In the car, Musa kept talking about demons and wanted to use it again. Sugu also has a rod and it's made from devil's equipment. If it weren't for the devil, they'd never cut off the devil's horns. Thought it would take hundreds of thousands of challenges to get it, but it didn't. They can buy it on Shopee. Fighters often gather in the place of the demonic appearance to defeat it. At the same time, traders also targeted them to sell items. And the evil sword is also one of the things they sell. They started shopping but forgot they had no money. Episode 7. Musa first went to a village full of fighters. In trading, people use the device as a currency. The devil is a highly competitive item, so it will be the last auction. The three of them went to dinner and the owner asked them the name of the boxer. Now I notice that their crew hasn't been named yet. Sugu asked them why they were destroying demons. Musa turned to Koji and said it was their dream. She asked the difficult question of which of you two would be the leader of the brigade. After a while, Musa wanted to make Koji the leader of the brigade because his name had a last name. The demonic struggle was quite epic. The crew sold the sword made by the crew. Musa doesn't know which bar to choose. Mitsu says choose the one that makes you first impression. She's the head blacksmith of the Ryu boxers. Musa noticed a sound that impressed you. Mitsu also saw that he had quite a lot of eyes when choosing it. Koji also chose the sword that no one would look at. Just like you've been isolated before. This auction is not a normal auction. Whoever picks up the sword will enter the sword testing state. This is a private auction of fighters. And the one who chooses companionship is the devil, not the one who chooses swords. When he held the sword, he felt the sword coming into him. The blood vessels will boil and something will run through the body. Swords will know their past. In the end, the sword will glow and there are pieces of stone on the fighter. Koji has tried searching successfully, but in retrospect, most people pass this test. But the colors of the light on everyone's rock are different. Actually, it's the miracle of the soul. Depending on the type of minerals in the sword, the light also varies according to, the color of Koji is blue and it has 40% of people who have this color. In addition, there are other colors, but rarely red. Musa hasn't finished her search yet. He now recalled his demonic village. And your father was being executed by the mob. Some girl shows up and you're familiar, but you don't know who it is. But then suddenly she turned into some kind of demon. Everyone has tried to earn every Musa left. Suddenly the stones appeared and his color was black. Mitsu realized it was a cavalryman. She had never seen a search like this before. But there's a legend about this. Musa wants to try again. You tried every sword, but you failed. Mitsu regretted that those whose souls were black would be hated and resisted by the devil because he was a cavalryman. And it's impossible to get a sword. In a moment of panic because he could not use the evil equipment, the demon god landed to attack. The devil is at the top of the mountain and sends down the little devils. Although it's not small at all. It attacks Musa and Koji attacks against it. The Musa is pretty strong and you saved the village's mother and son. Everyone fights and Musa can't do without the evil sword. After getting rid of the demons, Koji was praised by everyone. Musa is still alone because she can't join him. Everyone leaves. Musa tells Koji to leave. Koji turned away and it was as if to leave the Musa behind. Because that would be better for him. Musa sat alone in the middle of an empty space. Remembering the previous bar that I used, some nomadic dog youth appeared to say hello. He's seen your sword test. And the fact that you're black. He also resembles Musa with a black soul. Episode 8. He found Musa so happy that he cried. He was once Musa and also shared the dream of leaving because he did not have the power to fight. In order to use the evil device, Musa needs to accept its black mineral. When he tried his sword, he was besieged by a mist and lost consciousness. Now you need to let go of yourself to be stronger. He modeled for you. You made a huge hole with just a few swords. Now Musa will try to make a sword and you can become the demon of the sword. You'll be as strong as him because black mineral is the best ingredient to create a demonic device. He shoved Musa into the hole and threw a sword at you. Koji was with everyone in the boxers. He said I was moving forward for Musa. Sugu began to suspect Musa had some power in the legend. Koji began to tell about his family. Musa was born into a farming family specializing in the cultivation of land. Sugu was a little disappointed because he thought his family was special. When Koji was practicing sword but was caught by Musa, he was afraid because at that time the sword was hated by everyone. Musa is different. He admired you as idol. Then you two play together and practice your sword. Suddenly having friends makes Koji happy not to tell. Thanks to him, he didn't go through the dark days. Musa's parents are also quite strange because they don't care about the talks around them and treat Koji's father very well. Sugu saw that your parents were very normal. But why couldn't Musa use the evil device? Naneo went to meet the other young man. He is the shuru of the Inukai boxers. Naneo brought you food. In fact, Musa is a goddess. The dark goddess that Shuru has been looking for so long. Shuru gave this place to Naneo. She understood that her master wanted to turn Musa into a raw material for her sword. Musa is still in freefall. You've lost the sense of time. Seeing the sword, he immediately held it and plugged it into the wall to break. But because he held it, he began to float black fossils. Koji was covered in black fossils and fell into the lava. The goddess told Musa to live here with her forever. You still want to find out, and she's turned into a demon again. Musa recalled the time when the plague caused his parents to die. Everyone in the village shunned you and nobody gave you anything. And it was only because he knew Koji's father and son that he was not accepted and beaten. You live like a ghost. No one called his name and he wanted to see Koji again with his father. Someone gave you a mission to throw stones at a fighter. And that person was Koji's father. He hesitated and did not know how to do it. Musa seemed to have been crucified for what she had done. In Koji, they found the demon god. Episode 9, the demon god has no head. I thought someone had taken him down before, but I think he's still alive. Because when the devil dies, he will turn into a demon. And if not, his horn hasn't been broken. Shuru appeared and the one who took the devil's head was you. The sword started to point at him, but when he drew the sword, the people who pointed the sword were cut in half. What Shuru wanted was their executioner. They realized it was the sword hunter. The man who kills the master of the sword and steals its power. People attacked but one swing of the Shuru left them lying. He saw that Koji should come near and talk about the Musa that had become a demonic executioner and was waiting for Koji. Musa has become a black mineral and there is no need to fight anymore. Suddenly the rope of Sugu plunged down and pulled up Musa. Musa regained consciousness when she saw the black marble on her body, which in turn flared down. Actually, it was a nanoway. I thought you were a mineral, so I picked it up. Remember Shuru said he wanted Koji as his sword material. He ran to find Koji. Musa, after throwing stones at Koji's father, you went to his house and apologized. Not only did he not blame, but he also invited him into the house. He told you not to go through with today. He thanked Musa for saving his son from loneliness. After that, Koji was allowed to stay at the house of the two of them. And Koji's father is like yours. Shuru continues to be slaughtered. You're just as strong as the devil. He aimed for Koji because he promised Musa that he would make you his sword material. Because he didn't want to get in touch with people, he ran in the other direction. After that, Koji was taken alive. By the time he was almost slashed, Musa appeared. He walked up to his friend and said I was back. Seeing the Musa holding the evil device, Koji thought he could use the evil device. Musa shook his head because he still saw no light coming from the sword. But you can still hold the sword and not be like you used to be. Naneo came and asked Shuru about why Musa was still alive. Now Musa is in the process of assimilation with black mineral fossils. And the goddess has yet to make a judgment. If they point the sword at the Musa, the goddess will make a decision. They started aiming for Musa. Koji also agreed to fight with Musa against the two of them. The rod of the spade began to turn into 7 blades joined together. The other group of 3 people now dodged the continuous search. Shuru just stand there watching the play. Because the opponent is not a demon, Musa can enjoy fighting. He rushed up and dodged the slashes from the 7 swords. He used the technique of taking the ground as a sword shell, but when he got close to the pressure, he was dissolved. Musa realized that if they beat the other 7 swords, they could beat the dagger. To defeat those 7 swords, Koji also had a plan. Episode 10. Naneo began to attack Musa's group with 7 swords. Musa and the people dodged the attacks. You're starting to get pretty close to it, but you're still playing with her. Koji has a plan but is still very confident about his ability to weigh 3. Your mission is to kill Musa and you will certainly be able to do this. Instead of putting it together as predicted, they split it in 3. Just think that Koji opened the way to live for the other 2 to run and that Naneo couldn't let Musa run away. She attacked him, but Sugu wrapped his sword with his rope. It turned out that they were trying to separate the swords. Now they realize their goal is to destroy your weapon. Despite being destroyed by only 1 bar, Shuru began to fight. Naneo still tried to ask his master to let him take care of this. But Shuru doesn't want company and wants to fight alone. He started activating something. Sugu realized that it was a dagger. The rotating sword is a circle of strength and Shuru has not used it since the beginning of the year. Now he's really fighting. He slashed one and thought he was going to blow things up, but nothing happened. In retrospect, the whole summit was locked up by the wall of light. No one can get out of here now. Not only that, but he can do something to make space inside. People fell like rain. Musa and his friends are still alive. After taking out all the punks, he'll give it to someone who can survive. After a while, he also let the Musa fly. But suddenly the time seemed to stop. The goddess appeared in front of Musa. She finally understood you. The goddess can make the world stop because she holds everything, even time. And her enemies are Shuru and Naneo. They want to take your power by killing Musa. Because Musa died, she also had a lot of problems. That's why you're gonna use some of your remaining strength to get your Musa out of here. But Musa saw that it didn't make any sense to save you. You can't live alone without 2 more people. The goddess will give you her power. Everyone's executioner was pulled away. That dark stone is absorbing the executioners, including the Shuru and the Naneo. The man in charge of the evil blade appeared and only waved one. That Shuru's sword belonged to him. He started to reverse space. People are safe because of that. Koji recognized that the other was Musa. Not only did he change his appearance, but the atmosphere around him also changed. In fact, now Musa is just a corpse and the core is a goddess. Naneo attacked like a goddess who could bend a sword. The bearer of black mineral jelly can push or suck the blade of air, but that's why users can't use the device. Which means Musa can respond to all attacks. But this time is very short. The goddess who wants to exist must use all her strength immediately. She was asleep when the other 2 threatened Musa's life. The goddess began to incarnate and Shuru wanted her on her side. She would take down Shuru and Naneo before going to sleep again. People's weapons began to be absorbed. She said she would take down Shuru with a meteor shower. Episode 11. After everything is done, the goddess will sleep inside the Musa one more time. You remind me that you can't get yourself killed if you meet any enemies later. The goddess mentioned Jisai and it was Koji's father. She was running out of time so she would show Musa her battle in the real world. Only one man is a goddess. The 2 sides began to throw slashes. Shuru and Naneo have disappeared. Musa is back to normal. Koji and Sugu ran to compliment the Musa earlier. But this was not your doing. Musa remembered what the goddess said about the Jisai and how his will was half killed. You don't understand what the goddess has to do with Koji's father. The sword of Musa is broken again. The executioner will break when the executioner emits more than allowed. Mitsu came forward and praised the Musa's last attack. They'll do anything to thank you, so just say what you want. But besides that, there was a hole, and the body of the devil disappeared. On another space cut out. Shuru and Naneo brought out the head and body of the demon god. They ran away thanks to Shuru's ability. Because there were many dead fighters, they performed a funeral ritual. All the relatives of the fighters have been seated next to the swords of those fighters. The sword is also considered a proof of the fighter's existence. Koji remembered about his father. The sword of Sugu is the memory of her sister who died. That night they were allowed to sleep at the Ryu boxers. Musa has something to ask you, Mitsu. The next day, there was a second search session. Because the goddess has fallen asleep, the meteorite will also lose its effect. Koji believes this time Musa can do it. This will be the last time that Musa is tried. Musa began to rummage about Koji's father. He picked up the blade and the light began to glow red. Try your sword and your color is red. Everyone squeezed back and congratulated. When Koji succeeds, no one will cling like this. Sugu said your color is blue and Musa's color is red. Depending on the power, the color of the soul differs. Blue is just common and red is only very few fighters possess. Musa came to talk to Koji. You asked him during the search, did he see anything? Which is like the old days. Koji saw that it also happened in a moment. Musa said he saw Saji and the goddess must be his acquaintance. And remember, they didn't understand how he got that motorcycle. He must have something to do with the fighters outside. Naneo was also looking for Saji. He was a sinner of the whole world for taking the goddess with him. But Musa was the one who brought the goddess, and he had a completely different shape. Shuru guessed what must have happened to make the goddess change her host. The legions of fighters began to retreat. Koji thought that his father had always lived in the village like him. By the afternoon, Koji had not yet started. He came back and told me I'd get more food and some supplies. Koji also bought more maps. This is the first time Musa has seen this. Because it's so big, they don't know where to go now. Koji suggested going east because it was a favorable direction for them. Episode 12. When pushing the car through the swamp because it was too tired, Sugu and Koji argued. Musa says I want to test drive this car too. The 2 behind her quietly decided to release their hands so that Musa would fall. But when did Musa look back? They were taken away by swamp monsters. Now it's time to test the Musa's sword. But Musa doesn't see his horns. Its horns bulged and Musa rushed to throw a fatal blow at it. He went out to save his 2 friends, but there was still someone else who was swallowed by this one. Seeing that there was no response from the person, the Musa quickly tore the wrapper. Inside is a girl with your taste. It's a good thing she's alive. When she found out Musa saved me, she thanked him. Sugu saw 2 guys being dragged by a girl who was prettier than herself, so he didn't know what to do. Someone came running to call her the princess. He gave her his new suit and kept worrying about what was wrong with her. The princess wanted to know the name of the Musa group. Sugu asked their identities first. The girl is the owner of the Saru Boxer Corps and the daughter of Mr. Nobu. They gave the Musa group a ride out of the woods. Musa noticed that the princess had a completely different attitude than before. You test her by taking out the map and pretending not to know the way, but she still didn't respond at all. Musa was interrupted by someone every time she asked. He said angrily that he wanted to start talking to Michi. Michi suddenly turned to look surprised when Musa remembered his name. But at the same time on the trembling road he and Michi fell to the edge. Michi used his evil device to save the Musa. The two of them were flying. Musa asked why she didn't talk much earlier. Michi said he was a man who liked to lock himself up in his room. She was always with her grandfather. Speaking of direction, you said you couldn't go east because the map was blacked out. Looking that way, they saw a black wall and it was the devil himself. That wall is moving. He was the first demon god to enter Japan. The demon is very powerful and no one is a match for it. Japan is divided into two parts. On one side are those who resist evil, and on the other side worship it. The worshippers will build high-performing towns with miners. They brought the mined minerals to the demon god. The body of the demon god who ate the mineral was getting bigger. Its name is the Dark Demon God. Defeating evil spirits is something no one has done for 150 years. Now the evil spirit continues to swell and maybe Japan will be swallowed up. Koji felt like it wasn't painted in that scroll. The other scroll is the boxers all have one. And Saji must have been in some boxers troupe. In the picture, there is also a signature. It's Lord Uesu's. It must have been Koji's father who was there. At the port, the fighters were gathering. The lord there also seems to have noticed the goddess. He is working in some bar. She was contacted by someone and there were others like Shuru after the shadow. The Musa group is about to arrive at the port of Hari. Musa and Koji have never seen the sea and know what it is. Musa has learned but has never seen it. They went there to learn more about Koji's father. After a while, the sea appeared before them. Alright, season 1 of these is over here. Dear brothers, leave 1 likes and 1 subscription for the channel.